What is up, YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's not welcome back, girl. It's just welcome. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed unless you're a hater. Not everyone can have good taste. And as we close out Tar season today, I just feel like it's only right that we, give them girls one more glimpse as to the crazies that are a part of their squad. But like I said, I love y'all and it's no shade. I have to tell y'all about what I did to my sister when I popped up on her in Houston last week, but I'll save it for the end of the video. As for now, we just gonna get right into the mess. Today's video is about Harvey Kerrigan, aka Harv the Hammer. Have you heard of him? Harvey Kerrigan was born on May 18th, 1927 in North Dakota. Not sis just having a birthday. His mother was 29. She was not married, and you know how they frowned upon the girls back in the day when they had those little babies out of wedlock. Not only that, according to him, his mother was a lady of the night. That's not the term that he used. He used very derogatory terms to describe Miss Mama. She did not know who his father was, and so he grew up with just her in the household, no father figure. Now, when Harvey was just 4 years old, his mother decided that she wanted to get out of the streets. She wanted to settle down and be a wife. She meets a man who she falls for, the two get married, and about the age of 6, Harvey changed a little bit. He began to wet the bed. He also had an imaginary friend named Paul. Now, if you are not aware, these are typically telltale signs that some sort of childhood trauma has occurred. It's not always the case, but it's very common in instances where, something has happened that should not have happened to a child. When Harvey is around 8 years old, his mother becomes pregnant with her and her husband's first child. Now, around this time, she had grown to be very frustrated, tired, and fed up with his bedwetting and his little imaginary friend Paul. So she decides to send Harvey away to live with his aunt and uncle, who also lived in North Dakota but in a different city. Now, these arrangements, they don't last long. It is not long before Harvey is sent back to live with his mother and his stepfather. And it's kind of unfortunate because Harvey really enjoyed his time living with his aunt and uncle, and he was very shocked when they told him that he now had to rejoin his mother. Both shocked and disappointed. He did not understand why, and he did not want to go. But of course, he really does not have a choice in the matter. He has to just go with the flow. He's a kid. Harvey's mother this time only keeps him for a couple of months before she then ships him off to live with his grandmother. His grandmother is reportedly also very disgusted and frustrated with his bedwetting, and so she then decides he can no longer stay with her, and she ships him off to his other aunt. Harvey did not like living with his mother because of the things he saw her doing growing up. He didn't really respect her. Living with this aunt, he does not like at all. He hates it there. In fact, he decides that, you know what, I don't really care for my mama like that, but it's really just a respect issue, having seen her do, some of the things that she had done in her profession. And so he felt like living with her was the lesser of two evils. It decides to ask her if he could then return to her household. Harvey maintains that from an early age, he was the target of sexual misconduct from older women in his family, but he's never said exactly who. From all of these households that he's passed around to, it is unclear which of these women are guilty of this, but his mother is reportedly not one of the women. By the time he got back to his mother's household, he began to act out. He started stealing. I don't know what's with these people in theft, but he started to steal. He had that Brittney Norwood spirit on him from young. He is now 11, and by this time, his mother is tired of all of the things. She said, you know what? You have been soiling my sheets. You've been walking around here talking to Paul who don't exist. Now you want to steal. Like, I'm just sick of all of the things. She decides to send him to a reform school. Typically, these reform schools are not that good of an idea. Not back in the day. I don't know how they are now, but they don't have the reputation of being all that great at rehabilitating the children. Because Harvey's home life was so unstable up to this point, he actually did not mind the reform school. He said that this was actually the first time that he had consistent hot meals, somewhere clean to sleep every night, clean clothes, heat in the winter, and AC in the summer. He didn't mind this at all. He spends the next 8 years of his life in this reform school. When he is 18, he's then released because he's now an adult and responsible of taking care of his damn self. Unfortunately, at the time in which he is released at 18, he really doesn't know anything about existing in the world as an adult, a responsible, member of society. Nobody had really taught him any of that, not even in the reform school. And after spending so many years under the complete control of an institution, he didn't even know what to do with his newfound freedom. So all of these things lead him to decide, you know what, I'm gonna join the military. He enlists in the Army in 1949. The Army stations him over in Anchorage, Alaska, and not even the structure of the Army is enough to keep Sis out of trouble. On July 31st, 1949, shortly after he got to Anchorage, a man by the name of John Keith is walking through a park when he begins hearing these weird noises coming from a woman. He goes in the direction of the noises and he notices two people in the park seemingly having an adult exchange. The man yells for him to move on, and he does so, thinking that he, just walked up on a couple getting it on in the park. He decides he's gonna go on and mind his own business, but the very next day he's walking through the same park and something tells him to go over to that area where he had seen all of this going down. When he does so, he sees the same woman still laying there, but she is now dead. He is mortified. He calls for the police. They, of course, remove her from the park and bring him in for questioning just to see if he can tell them anything that, could lead them to a suspect. Now, it was rather dark, so he's able to give a description, but it's not that great in detail. The woman's COD is determined to have been from blunt force trauma and, of course, obviously the assault. Roughly about 2 months later, in September of 1949, a woman by the name of Dorcas is approached by a soldier in uniform. He offers her a ride in his car, to which she declines because she does not know him and she does not trust him. He pretends that they know her. He's like, you look familiar. I believe we met. Sis is not going for it. She was like, no, I don't know you, sir. Please move along. At this point, he gets really frustrated. He then gets out of his car and grabs her by the hair. The two wrestle back and forth until finally they end up falling and landing inside of a ditch on the road. The soldier is trying his best to remove her clothes. He's groping her. She is fighting him off the whole time. She was not trying to let this go down or happen without a fight. It actually pays off because she is able to get loose and get away from him, and she goes to the police, gives them a full description. It does not take police long at all to identify the assailant, and he is 22-year-old Harvey Kerrigan. And of course, he is arrested, child. Police very quickly make the connection between this attack and the one from the park, in which the woman was not as lucky. They put together a lineup and they bring in John to see if he would pick out Harvey as the person that potentially was the one that he had seen that night in the park, which he does. He positively points this out as the one. Right away, Harvey admits to attempting to take Dorcas's goods, but he continues to deny any involvement in the first instance. He said he had taken no one's life. Now, of course, they don't believe him. They keep him there. They interrogate him for hours until finally he admits his involvement in both crimes, not just one. Once he confesses, the police are feeling like, great, this should be quick and easy. We should get a clean conviction and be done with all of the things. He goes to trial, and exactly what they expect to happen happens. He is convicted of both crimes and sentenced to hang, right? His lawyers immediately file an appeal. He actually wins the appeal because the Supreme Court were very disturbed by what they presented. Not only had the sheriff, who has no power to do so, promised him that if he confessed, he would avoid hanging. They were also in violation of the McNabb rule, which in the U.S., a confession is deemed inadmissible in court if it is gotten through like false promises or extensive interrogation, which was the case with Harvey. They had held him there for hours. Like, that is not supposed to be able to be a thing, but it is. We know it is. Unfortunately for Harvey, this results in his conviction being overturned, and his sentence is reduced down to 9 years in prison. That's it. He is paroled on April 2nd of 1960. Back in these streets, ready to go at it again. After this release, he felt a lot like he did the first time when he was released from the reform school, that he just was so disconnected from reality, society. He just didn't feel like he knew what it took to exist amongst the regular people. He felt like the world had changed so much, and he just felt lost and like he did not fit in with us. Well, I wasn't here yet, but you know what I mean. Now, he did make an effort. He tried to work different jobs, which he would either be fired from or he would feel like was not a good fit for him and end up quitting after a short period of time. And after a few failed attempts at working as a regular person, earning money the right way, he and his brother get together and decide that they're going to go out here and steal, child. They would rather go out here and burglarize and terrorize the neighborhood versus earn their money the honest way. He was also up to some of his old tricks, and so within months of being released from his 9-year prison stint, he is back behind bars for his shenanigans yet again. The only thing that they really had solid evidence against him for was the burglary, and so for that he is sentenced to a minimum of 2.5 years in prison. Now when he is released again in March of 1964, he decides to relocate to Seattle, but yet again he is not out on the streets long before he is picked up again for burglary, and this time he receives the longest sentence that he's received to date. 15 years behind bars. Now by this time, Harvey said that he decided he was getting older. It's time for him to change his life around. Like, he needs to get it together. He was determined to spend these 15 years behind bars learning what it means to be a real adult out here contributing to society instead of what he had been doing. He earns his GED, he takes him a couple of college courses, and prepares himself for the world this time. At 1968, at 41 years old, he is released on parole for good behavior after serving 13 of the 15 years. Within a year of being released, Harvey meets and marries a widow by the name of Sheila. He moves in with her. He gets a job running a little gas station, and for the first time in his life, he feels like a normal member of society. He had also managed to function well within the relationship despite his disdain for women that had manifested itself inside of him from early in his childhood and just stayed with him throughout his life. Like, he literally did not like women. His early childhood memories of his mother bringing all these different men in and out of her bedroom, the ways in which she would allow him to mistreat her, disrespect her, and what she tolerated. It was an image that he could not get out of his mind. It really bothered him, and it also still brought him a level of shame. He didn't like it, and it affected the way he looked at women in general. But with Sheila, he did make an effort to try to be with the woman and just put these things in the back of his mind. But it's not long before they come to the front and cause issues with this relationship. Not in the ways that one would expect, though. Not long after the two tied the knot, Harvey began leaving the house in the middle of the night. When she would question him about this, he told her that he was taking long drives just to clear his mind and think. But Sheila wasn't trying to hear this. She thought her man was out here sneaking and creeping and cheating. She felt like he was not being honest about what he was out there doing. Like, it just didn't sound right. So she continued to press him, and he was not too fond of being questioned all of the time. And so the two began to fight a lot, thus resulting in their marriage falling apart soon after it had come together. The two just decided, you know what, I'm trying to can, but I can't, and so I'm out. The marriage is dissolved. Now, if there's one thing we know about the subjects of these stories, is that they're gonna find love, child. They're gonna find them a man or a woman. And so Harvey does just that. On April 14th of 1972, Harvey marries a woman by the name of Alice Johnson, and then he moves in with her and her children. They had many of the same problems that he had had in his previous relationship with Sheila, except Alice was a little more tolerating of the issues. She did express that she had an issue with him leaving in the middle of the night, taking these long drives. But in addition to that, he was showing a lot of strange attention to her 14-year-old daughter, which quickly grew into more attention than he was showing his own wife. These explicit comments and suggestive remarks were very, very constant. They made the 14-year-old girl extremely uncomfortable. Harvey, however, felt comfortable doing this in front of all of the kids as well as his wife. She makes it very clear to her mother that she's uncomfortable with this. Like, you need to check your husband, girl, and let him know this is not okay. But Alice doesn't do anything about it. So after he continues to make his remarks and make little 14-year-old Georgia uncomfortable, she decides the only thing left to do is run away from home. Obviously, nothing was going to change or get better, and she was not willing to stick around to see how much worse it could get. October 15th, 1972, right after the 14-year-old girl decides to run away, the body of a different teenage girl is found, and it is determined that her COD is blunt force trauma. Several witnesses come forward, and they tell police that they saw her getting into a stranger's car, which fit the exact description of Harvey's car. But beyond that, police have a very difficult time proving that he had anything to do with it. There was no evidence tying him to the scene of the crime. Now, Harvey, he could get a woman, but he really couldn't keep one. So the following year, in 1973, his marriage to Alice, it is dissolved, and the two decide to go their separate ways. Harvey then decides to focus less on his love life and more on his work life, or so it seemed. He places a want ad in the Seattle newspaper looking for help for his gas station, right? 15-year-old Catherine Sue Miller. She responds to the ad, but it's not for herself. She's actually calling for her boyfriend who's looking for a job. Now, the owner, Harvey, he tells her that he actually hires girls too of her age. And so if she wanted to apply, he thought that it would be a really good opportunity for her instead of her boyfriend Mark. She's actually very excited about this. She's like, okay, I'll come through and work. And so the two of them decide that the following morning on May 2nd of 1973, she would come in and have a formal interview. By that afternoon, Catherine's mother is down at the police station reporting her daughter missing. She knew that she was going in for an interview and where, but after the interview, she didn't hear from her daughter at all. Hours go by, she's unable to reach her, and she felt like something was wrong. She knew it wasn't like her daughter to just go off the grid like this, and she was very concerned. Police look, they go out and question Harvey, but they can't find any evidence. Neither can they find Kathy until about a month later when two boys are playing in an alleyway near the gas station, and they find Kathy there wrapped in this plastic sheet. She was completely unclothed. Her COD is also determined to be blunt force trauma. Detectives right away felt like Harvey was the one that was responsible for this. At this time, he was suspected of taking the lives of 6 other women, all of them having responded to an ad for a job, gone for an interview, and then gone missing, all of which had also turned up sometime after the fact with the same MO, hammered skulls. But in every instance, they had literally no evidence. The most that they had was a couple speeding tickets that put Harvey in the vicinity of where they had been found. But beyond that, there was no physical evidence. There was nothing else tying him to the scene or to these women. From there, they dubbed him Harv the Hammer. Although they didn't have any hard evidence, they were sure that he was the guy. They knew that this was him, and so they began hounding him all of the time. The police were always on his ass. So much so that he got tired of it and decided that he was going to move to Minneapolis to evade the Seattle police. Child, he goes to a new city with the same old antics because on June 28th of 1973, a 47-year-old woman, she is sitting at a bus stop minding her business, waiting on her ride when all of a sudden she is attacked from behind and she passes out. Now when she wakes up, she is inside of a man's car, Harvey's car. Harvey then attempts to try to force her to perform fellation on him, and she is denying it. She was like, no, I'm refusing. I'm not doing it. You're nasty. She decides that she would rather make this good old leap out of a moving vehicle than to do that. And he had not locked her door, so she is successful in doing so. As soon as she hits the ground, honey, she gets up, runs off. He continues to go down the street. She goes straight to the police station and reports the attack. She describes the car, she describes the man, but he is now in a whole new area. And so the local police there are not familiar with his antics and they have no idea who this man could be. So he is not apprehended for this. Trigger warning. 2 months after this incident, he picks up a 13-year-old girl who is hitchhiking trying to make it to her boyfriend's house. Once he gets the young girl inside of the car with the promise of a ride, he makes it very clear that he has some other things up his sleeve. He forces her to perform fellatio on him while he sodomizes her using the handle of his hammer. Now, for whatever reason in this instance, and thankfully, he decides to let her go. Just not harm her any further. Allow the girl to get out of the car and go on about her way. For months, she keeps this secret to herself, not telling a single soul. She was too ashamed to tell anybody what had happened to her, and so she doesn't. In the meantime, Harvey continues to attack other girls using the exact same MO. The first year that he was in Seattle, he is estimated to have done this to 18 different girls, 18 different young women. In 1974, after being in Seattle for about a year now, he meets a woman by the name of Eileen. Eileen is very into church. She's a very religious woman, very into her faith. Harvey turns on his charm. What charm? Girl, I don't know, because he wasn't cute. It had to have been his charm, girl. Whatever it was, he is able to convince her to give him a chance, and the two begin to date. Now, early on in their courtship, he is the perfect gentleman. But very early on, he showed Eileen who he really was, which partly was very, very controlling. Being a woman like herself, she felt like there was good in everybody. She was determined to see the good in him, to change him, to help lead him to the light. But y'all, there was no help in this man. He was just too far gone, and she did not know this. Finally, she realizes that. She comes to their realization, and she tells her friends and a couple of her family members that She's sick of the toxicity of this relationship. She is ready to just throw in the towel and give up on Harvey. But within a couple of days of her letting them know that she is now leaving this relationship, she goes missing. On August 10th of 1974, her friends and family go to the police station and let them know all of the things. They're telling them of the past, of the relationship that she had with Harvey, and that they suspect he has something to do with this. The very next day, after they go to police, he attempts to cash her paycheck. Still, nothing is done. She is not located. He is not picked up. 1 month after the disappearance of Eileen, Harvey is driving down the highway when he spots two 16-year-old girls hitchhiking. He pulls up to the young girls and he propositions them in exchange for a ride wherever they're trying to get to. They will first go with him to pick up a stranded vehicle. They agree. The two girls get into the car, and soon after he pulls off, he begins making these lewd comments to the young girls, which obviously make them a bit uncomfortable. Finally, he pulls over into a very secluded area, and there is in fact a stranded car there. So they're thinking, you know, it's about to be over. We just have to help him get this car wherever he's trying to take it. He'll drop us off. It'll be done. Except things get a little weird. Harvey gets out of the car. He tells Lisa to stay inside while he takes June over to the other car. Lisa at first is not thinking anything of it until she hears June begin to scream, and when she looks, Harvey is hitting her over the head with a hammer. She immediately hops out of the car and begins running and screaming for help. And although they were kind of in a secluded area, this kind of spooked Harvey because anybody could have driven by and stopped to help. So he decides not to stick around for that to happen. He hops in his vehicle. He takes off, leaving both the girls there. Now, granted, this spooked him, and he was not out here trying to go back to jail. He was very much afraid of being caught. His appetite for killing it far outweighed his fear of being caught. Just a week later, after this incident, he spots a woman on the side of the road who appears to have car trouble. Gwen is pulled over. She has the hood up on her vehicle, and she does not know what's wrong with her car, but it is no longer running. He comes to her aid, telling her that he is a mechanic, that he can help her, but he forgot his tools. He didn't expect to do any mechanical work today, and therefore he had left his toolbox at the house. Now, he just needed to go home and grab it, and he'd be more than willing to assist her and get her back up and running. She is thinking, okay, great, like, this is awesome. He then tells her that he feels like it's not all that safe for a woman like her to be out here on the side of the road. Anything could happen. So he suggests that she ride along with him to pick up his tools. Now, she agrees and she goes along with him, but little does she know, he is actually what she would need protecting from. She hops into the vehicle with him and he takes off. Once he has her inside of the vehicle, he then goes forward with his typical MO, driving to a secluded area, forcing her to perform you-know-what on him. Y'all know, YouTube be coming at me, girl. They be real censored out here in these streets. He then takes out his hammer and hits her over the back of the head. Now, she immediately passes out. He opens her car door, pushes her out of the vehicle, and then takes off. He just leaves her there for dead. Now, what Harvey does not know is that Gwen has actually survived this attack. Miraculously, she comes to and crawls all the way to the highway. One of the passing cars sees her, stops, offers her some help, and of course, aids her in making it to the hospital, which ultimately saves her life. Not long after this, Eileen's body is finally found, and it has been about 5 weeks since she went missing. She too had suffered blows to the head consistent with the use of a hammer. The exact same day that Eileen is found, Harvey goes out again. He spots 2 young women. He uses the exact same little dog and pony show that he had used with the 2 16-year-old girls, offering them a ride in exchange for them helping him pick up a stranded vehicle. They accept, they get into the car. Again, he is making all these nasty little comments and jokes and making the girls uncomfortable. Harvey tries to convince both of the girls to, fillet him. And when they refuse, he just full on assaults both of the girls. Neither of them are able to overpower him and get loose. When he goes to driving again, he realizes that he is now low on gas. He had been paying so much attention to them that Sis was not even paying attention to the gas hand, which was critically low. By the time he realized, he either had to immediately go for gas, like literally right now, or keep going and risk having him a stranded car for real with 2 girls inside who could possibly run off or call for help, and then he would be stuck there, child, in his car and can't go nowhere. And judging by the looks of him, he don't look like a fast runner, child. He just don't. He don't give me Usain Bolt tees. I'm sorry. He decides, you know what, the safest thing for me to do is to go get gas. He stops at a gas station and the 2 girls get out of the car and run off for help. He gets just enough fuel to get himself out of there. Meanwhile, women are still popping up with their skulls completely obliterated all over the city. And at this point, the Minneapolis police and the Seattle police, they had linked up and started comparing notes and sharing evidence and realizing that Harvey has to be behind all of this. Furthermore, several women had come forward who had either escaped him or had been let go by him and had picked him out of a lineup. Now with this, police are able to obtain a search warrant for his home, and when they go in, they find a road map with over 181 little red circles on it. The circles are of isolated areas all over the US and some places in Canada, mostly in Washington, Minneapolis, California, North Dakota, and Vancouver. The police quickly realized that a lot of these circles are related to cases that were unsolved who weren't even being linked to Harvey. He wasn't even a suspect, and he never would have been had they not gotten this. Some of the circles lead them to actually making discoveries that they had not yet found or possibly would have never found had they not had this little piece of evidence. His lawyer attempts to use the insanity plea. He's like, you know what? My client, he could not be held fully responsible for this because it's something medically wrong here. But Harvey, he did not even support the insanity defense himself. I don't know if it was a pride thing, but sis was like, no, we're not gonna say that I'm mentally unstable. We're not doing that. Honey, Harvey and his own defense attorney did not get along. They didn't agree on anything. The defense was a whole hot mess and a complete failure in the end. Harvey is ultimately convicted and he receives the maximum allowed in Minnesota, which is 40 years. 40-year sentence was the maximum at this time. I don't know if it changed, but during this time, that was the most you can give somebody. More discoveries are made after he is hauled off to jail, and he receives even more convictions. They didn't have any effect on his sentence because he'd already received the maximum allowed. I guess they would just add it to his record. He just celebrated his 94th birthday 2 days ago, and he was actually set to be released in 2015, even though you received the maximum for whatever reason. I don't know, because my ministry is not law. Minnesota law, okay? For whatever reason, they are able to deny you release when your time is served. And so in 2015, when that girl went up to be released, they respectfully declined it and said, nah, sis, you ain't going nowhere. He is, however, oh, child. I don't know if I'm getting dark or what, girl. Now, although he was denied, he was rescheduled for another hearing in 2022, next year. So he could possibly be released next year at the tender age of 95 and back out here in these streets. So y'all be safe. Hell, I probably need to be safe too after making this video. Speaking of being safe and making this video, my phone rang and it was a call from a corrections facility out in Missouri. I said, oh my God, I don't know anybody who went to jail, so I don't know who this could be. And I could barely make out the name when they said it on the little recording, and it was prepaid, so I thought about answering it, but I was like, Then I felt bad because I was like, girl, what if that was my cousin? Like, what if one of my people was out there traveling, girl, and they got picked up? And they was like, let me call Brittney instead of calling my mama. Well, if that's the case, I'm so sorry about it. But I started to think, like, what if it's somebody I did a video on, girl, and they calling me to threaten me? You know how my anxiety is it just would not let me live. And I'm just like, I should have answered it. Instead, I just let it go to voicemail, and now I have no peace. I have to take back all of these foundations. I don't know if I'm getting darker or if I'm typically really good at picking my foundations, and I had this one before, but I don't know why I want to be Casper so bad lately. Like, it's just unreal. The bounce does oxidize, but she ain't trying to oxidize today. Needless to say, I had no peace for the next 4 hours. I'm like, oh my God, I'm just imagining myself answering the phone and them knowing my address, my mama's address, my sister's address out there in Texas, my other sister's address out there in Florida. I literally have no peace, right? Girl, until my phone rings again and it's the same number. I said, okay, God, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I answer. Again, it's prepaid. Came back out the name. I accept, girl. I push 1 and I accept that call, and I hear nephew. And I'm like, oh no, sir, I'm a niece. And I think he was taken aback by that. I don't know if he thought his niece had pulled a whole Caitlyn Jenner or what. But he was like, who is this? And I was like, who is this? And then he got quiet and I was like, who are you trying to reach? And he was like, well, I'm trying to reach my nephew, but now I think I have the wrong number. And I'm like, sir, I believe you do. I'm so sorry about it. He then apologized. He's like, I think I do have the wrong number. I'm so sorry, ma'am. And it was something in that I'm so sorry, ma'am, that made me feel like he was going to try to take this call another direction, that he was just going to try to make it where he didn't waste his phone call. So I had to go ahead and just hang up the line on that girl, because what you're not about to do is try to give me your jailhouse game, girl. I don't know. It might be working because the girls be waiting on the outside. I don't know what it is, but I ain't even trying to stick around and see, girl. I don't want a part of none of it. So I'm hanging up before you can try to get me. And that's what I do. I hang up the line. And that was it. I had my peace. I gotta tell y'all what I did to my sister when I went to Houston, because telling her that I was coming to Houston to look at apartments, it would just be too much like right. You know, giving her the opportunity to take off and show me a good time or prepare for my arrival. No. I popped up on her at her job. She manages a restaurant. Now, I go through the front door trying to be all inconspicuous, if that's the word. If not, girl, you know what I mean. And I'm like, hey, is Amanda here? And the person at the front was like, no, she's not. Now, I'd already confirmed her working hours. So I'm like, girl, where is you at, girl? You're supposed to be here. But luckily, they tell me that she should be back any minute, that she briefly just stepped out. So I'm like, okay, can I get a table? Because it's a restaurant and it's all dim lit and sexy. And so I'm like, it's dark enough in here for me to hide out. Like, seat me. And he's like, okay. But he's still looking at me kind of strange. I tell old boy, I'm like, hey, when she gets here, can you tell her that a woman, me, I've shown up, I have a crush on her, like I just can't stop thinking about it, and so I'm here. I got the Steph Curry spirit on me and I'm ready to shoot my shot. And he's looking at me like I'm crazy. He is like, now the thing is, she's married, so I don't know if that's why he was confused or feeling like, yeah, girl, probably that's not a good idea, or if he was looking at me crazy because, you know, I'm a woman, which is 2021, so that shouldn't have been a thing in his mind, but you never know. Or the fact that he thought the whole idea of me showing up here trying to shoot my shot was a weird idea. Who knows what was on this man's mind? Shout out to him. Nevertheless, he agrees to do this for me. He seats me at a table. He tells me that as soon as she comes in, he'll send her my way. Meanwhile, my crazy behind is sitting at the table behind the menu like this. Girl, then I got to looking at the menu and the food was looking real good. So I had asked something that I wanted to go ahead and order. Furthermore, I didn't want to hold up this waiter's table if I wasn't going to buy anything and tip her any of the things, right? Because at first I was like, girl, just give me a water with a piece of lemon, girl. She kept coming by like, anything else? I'm like, okay. I like sushi. It was like a Asian restaurant. It's one of those restaurants where it's fancy, where you cook, like it's a grill in the center of the table. I think it's Korean barbecue. You just grill your own meats. Girl, I didn't come here to cook. When I go to a restaurant, I want you to cook and to clean, girl. What? You gonna have me come back there and wash my dishes too, my girl? But it was a cool thing. The thing is, I just never seen anything like that. It is actually a cool experience. Like, it was real cute, honestly. I just was taken aback a bit. Nevertheless, I see something on the menu that in my mind does not require cooking. It's like some little sushi. I'm like, girl, bring me this tuna roll, girl. That's real cute. I'll put a picture so y'all can see what it looks like. Hopefully I don't look crazy and y'all don't try to pull me together because of what I'm about to tell you happened next. Now, meanwhile, he comes back to the table and he tells me that she just got here, so she should be over any minute. I'm like, thank you. I'm seeing her walk around the restaurant and I'm just behind the thing like this. And so knowing my sister's a Leo, she a Leo, and I'm knowing that she is not with the shits. Like, maybe I should have went with a different idea. Maybe I should have said it was an issue or something, and she would have come and handled it. But she is at work, and I'm talking about a crush. I'm probably the least of what she is concerned with. She is probably not here for any of the BS. I know my sister, so I'm like, yeah, she probably is never gonna come over here. This is a bad idea. But at this point, I'm committed, so I'm sticking to it. So every time she's passing me, I'm having to do the menu like this, girl. I'm still trying to peek and look at her. I'm looking like this with one eye, girl. I didn't FaceTime Melissa. I got her peeking. I'm holding my phone up over the thing so Melissa can see. And we are just cackling. I also noticed old boy was walking around the restaurant looking at me all suspiciously because I probably looked batshit crazy, honestly. I obviously have no shame. I was on a mission. There was no room for shame, okay? Finally, she comes over to the table and I lowered the menu. And she is like, what are you doing here? Like, she is extremely excited to see me. I'm like, what's up, my girl? I'm here to find me and Blue a place. And so that was fun. And then she tells, you know, the rest of the people that I'm actually her sister and not some crazy, deranged, lunatic woman who's here to try to seduce her and take her from her husband, break up her marriage and all of the things, girl. So that was fun until my food comes to the table and it's not what I thought it was. This little meat on the top is raw tuna. It's like minced ground raw tuna. Now, I didn't have a little raw salmon in my sushi by accident, and I felt like it was okay, you know. I did honestly taste a piece of it on the end of my chopstick. It wasn't bad. It was good. It was seasoned well. But something about it, like, girl, I just could not wrap my mind around sitting here eating mouthfuls of raw tuna. I was going to say, that's not the type of raw meat I like in my mouth, girl, but that's kind of inappropriate, so I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to edit that out. I tell them, you know what, on second thought, fire up my grill, please. We about to make this work. I asked for a piece of foil and a little bit of oil. Bars in the truth. Girl, I sprayed the little piece of foil. My sister actually sprayed the foil for me, and she's like, you are not about to sit here and grill this nice little batch of raw tuna. Like, you are not about to do this. And I said, yes, ma'am, I am. Like, I'm about to embarrass you, girl, in front of all your coworkers and friends and things, because I'm not about to waste my money and I'm not about to eat this raw tuna. And so I pat that girl together like a hamburger patty. Pat it together, put it in the foil, put it on the grill. The people walking by, the waiters, they like, girl, what the hell? And she's laughing it off. I don't think she was embarrassed. My family is used to my antics by now. They are hardly embarrassed when I do anything. So she was just like, yes, she's over here preparing to cook this tuna in this foil on this grill. And they're looking like, oh, wow. And I'm looking like, and so I formulate my little foil pouch and I put my tuna right there on the grill, girl. And when I tell you I didn't give a damn, not at all, okay? Baby, I sat there and I flipped that girl after a couple minutes and had conversation with my sister. And when it was done, I asked Miss Mamas if they had hamburger buns in the back, girl, because what I was going to do is make a sandwich. But they didn't have no buns because they fancy. They too classy and rich for hamburger buns. And so I just ate it out the pack with the rice. They brought it on some like these deep fried rice balls, which were really good. The salmon was really good. I actually woke up yesterday wishing that I could have some more, just the way I prepared it. So them girls might be seeing me again after I make it to the city. Now they already know how I'm coming. But shout out to them. They didn't have that judgmental spirit on them, child. It was more so of a, what you doing, Miss Mamas? Okay, then do you kind of spirit on them. So yeah, it was really, really cute. Houston was really, really a good time. There's so many dog-friendly activities in Houston. I took him to Barnaby's. He got to eat there. Barnaby's Cafe was really cute. The dog parks were really cute and fancy. There's also like swimming lessons you can sign your dog up for. I definitely just want to swim with him, so I might just take him back to the beach. He's not going to the Olympics to make me no money, so I'm not trying to make him a swim star, which is like a track star, but you swim before y'all try to come for me, or whatever you call a professional swimmer, girl. Honey, now time is going by extremely fast, because when I came back, I was like, I have 6 whole entire weeks before I move. And girl, one of them weeks is already come and gone. This week is out of here. And this week went by so quickly. I didn't already start ordering stuff. I need to chill. I'm not ordering nothing else. I got all of my linens though, all of my dishes. I think that's really it. Just kitchen stuff, linens, and that's all. I ain't buying nothing else, because now I got like 8 boxes in my living room that's just sitting there waiting to be moved to my apartment. And honestly, to my own credit though, I only bought it because these things were like on sale or they were phasing out. So I was like, I gotta go ahead and buy these. Everything else I just made a note of with the plan to purchase later, but I couldn't risk missing out on these things or these good sales. And I cannot wait to get there to be with my niece. If y'all follow me on Instagram, y'all saw how she wore me out, girl. The thing is, my niece and my sisters, if y'all watched the Cocktails and Conversations with them, you notice that them girls are a little more proper in their speaking than I am, right? My niece is very much a little Miss Proper Pants girl. We've talked on the phone, but she hasn't been around me since they moved, and it's been about 3 years. She's only 8, so you know, their little memories don't be that much. So she asked me flat out, why do you talk like that? I said, girl, not you trying to gather me, girl. What do you mean? And so she's like, and then I have a habit of providing emphasis with a little Like, I hit you with a lip pop in a minute. Somebody always asks me, why am I tasting myself? I don't know if it's my auntie, somebody in my family though. When I do it, they like, why are you tasting yourself? And I'm like, girl, relax. Nevertheless, I did that a couple of times, and she was like, why do you do that? And I'm like, and it went from why do you do that to how do you do that? And I called her throughout the day trying to get her one in, girl. She was like, it was so soft. She was like, I'm like, girl, no ma'am, you gotta open up your throat chakras, girl. You can't go light, okay? So she kept doing it throughout the day. And at the end of the day, which is what I had posted to Instagram, she was like, TT, I can talk like you now. And I'm like, you can talk like me? Go ahead, let me hear it. And she said, yeah. I said, girl, that is not me. I could not stop laughing. I said, first of all, when you go home with that lip pop, your mama is probably never going to allow you to hang out with me ever. Like, she is going to be like, girl, you are corrupting my child, and I just can't have it. Like, I just can't have any of the things, period. But it was so fun, and it was funny. And when I told Melissa about it later on, I'm like, girl, can you believe that's how I sound to her? And Melissa was like, girl, that's how you sound to everybody, no shade. I'm like, okay, what y'all not gonna do is collectively come for me at all these different angles, girl. This ain't it. Y'all are not about to try to gather me, girl, like some money eggs on Easter. I'm not having it. I cannot and I will not. Which also reminds me, somebody had left a comment not too long ago, probably a couple months ago now, and they said that they were from a different country, that English was not their first language. And so when they first came across my channel, they kind of had a difficult time, you know, understanding the lingo and just really getting me. Like, just understanding what I mean by certain things, right? And I was like, girl, people who speak English, okay, sometimes don't get me. Granted, a lot of things I say, you've probably heard before if you are from the South or if you are a part of certain communities, girl, you've heard a lot of the things. But I'm sure there are a lot of people who hear me speak and have to rely heavily on the context clues to make sense of what I just said. The struggle is not yours alone, sis. I promise you. I thought that was really funny. You know what? Shout out to Tammy for this palette because it really is cute. And the cake liners too. And it's just, this is my thing. More often than not, I've encountered women who were very catty, unsupportive of other women. Women who were just weird. And so I definitely try to move different in my day-to-day, and I genuinely appreciate other women that I come across who share that same energy, because I am such a championer. Is that the word, or is it champion of women? A championer of women. You know what I mean, girl. Don't come for me. That's just how I am, like, period. I definitely try to support other women, especially when I genuinely like what they're doing. And I genuinely do like the palette and her line. Everything that I've tried so far. Kennedy, girl, if you still watching, I'm gonna hound you until you start making cake decorating videos here on YouTube. She is on TikTok. I'll put information below. She is also on Instagram. She makes beautiful cakes and cupcakes and all of the things. But girl, you can show us how you be baking them cakes, girl. Granted, mother can bake. The baking part I got down, but I couldn't decorate a cake and make it cute to save my life, girl. And so I just think that's interesting, and I think that would be really cool to do. But I can't run nobody's life, child, or force them to do anything. Who are me? I'm gonna wrap the video up here. I've talked your ear off. I've done enough. A lot of y'all probably already gone already, girl. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending time with me. Like the video, please, before you leave. It helps me out a whole lot. Comment down below and let me know your thoughts on Harv the Hammer. Share this video with a friend, and I look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday. Peace. Now, when Harvey was conceived, tell signs of childhood abuse. Blah, blah. Girl. Reportedly very frustrated with Paul's, no, who is Paul? Girl, Paul is the imaginary friend. She probably was frustrated with him too. Frustrated and very fed up with Paul's, damn it, I said Paul again. Take 100. Granted, this green is so pretty. Like, I'm trying to can, but I can't. I'm trying to focus on the story, but I'm just like, girl, I'm living. Found and identified as 22-year-old Harvey Karen. What is his name? Karen. Okay. It does not take the oh my God, what is wrong with me today? Oh my God. And the one from the park. The birds are horrible around here. He made several chimps. Sis was back behind jail. And then he meets in Me 10. Girl, what are you talking about? Not telling a secret soul. A secret soul. What am I talking about, girl? In the meantime, Target. What's the word when you just get somebody into you, girl? Lewd and lascivious. Is it the word lascivious? We just gonna go with lewd, girl. Just lewd. We ain't gonna complicate it. Girl, I'm giving Morticia. Girl, I think I did this exact same look almost in the last video. I know it was green. Let me see. Yep, just about. Wow. Oh well.